There we go. We are live.
Awesome. So, hey, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody, depending on the time zone. This is Daniel, and we're gonna have today a Hyperledger meetup on a pretty special topic that's gonna be blockchain and quantum resistance. I would say it's pretty much a topic which is getting to be more and more important, and then I would say more and more. It's still, of course, a little bit questionable before it gets really a hot topic. But perhaps in like 3-4 years, perhaps in 10 years, we don't know. But this why I would say it's just pretty important to start to deal with the topic, at least on a non-mathematical level. This is a Hyperledger meetup, so it's practically open community. Everybody is just welcome to collaborate, cooperate, or share any information. Today, we're gonna have like 2 presentations, and I would say these presentations will be mostly like non-technical. So we don't cover like much math, basically. So we don't have like matrix algebra. We try to cover things on a high level, which is, I mean, on the one hand, it's something good because more people can understand. Of course, it has some disadvantages, of course, because so I mean, speaking about like quantum computing, quantum resistance, post-quantum cryptography without math is sometimes a little bit like high level. But I mean, that's what we planned for today. And we're gonna have like 2 presentations. The first presentation is from Andras, and the second one is from me, and both cover like, you know, I mean, different aspects of blockchain and quantum threats, quantum computing, and post-quantum cryptography. So let's just start with the first presentation, and then I just give the stage to Andras.
Thank you. Thanks, Daniel. Sorry. Okay. Just wait a minute. I can hear myself from your computer. Just sorry, guys. Just a moment. Okay. No, that's not enough. Speaker. Name system. Okay. Daniel will just turn off. Okay. Thanks. Sorry, guys. So my name is Andras Szabolcsi, and I work as a CTO of Blockpen at this moment, and I have more than 25 years of programming, and my special fields are analysis, cryptography, and blockchain, and big financial systems for banks, especially. And today I would like to show you some really interesting topics about the quantum resistance and quantum cryptography. So let's get started. Before we dive in deep, I would like to tell about the nowadays what we are using at this moment for how our cryptography works. So for symmetric key encryption, the same key is used for both encryption and decryption. So it is typically used for encrypting large amount of data due to its speed. And only one disadvantage is that the key must share between the parties before the communication can begin. For example, the AES encryption algorithm is very secure and strong enough to provide protection against most attacks. And this is the first one. The second one is asymmetric keys. The asymmetric key encryption is a cryptographic method that uses two different keys for encryption and decryption. One key is the private key, and it's only known by the owner, while the other key is the public key, and this is publicly available. Probably, I think you heard of it already, but just let everybody know the basics. The advantage is that it is not necessary for the communicating parties to agree on a shared key in advance. Multiple algorithms exist out, but all are based on difficult mathematical problems. The most known are based on the prime factorization or the discrete logarithm problem. The two most known are RSA and elliptic curve. Key exchange, the third one, is a really interesting one because it solves the problem of key sharing in the symmetric world, in a symmetric key encryption world. So the key exchange, it allows two parties to agree on a shared secret key during their public communication without the need of directly meeting or sharing the keys. It has usually three simple steps. Alice and Bob, for example, selects a random value. They would like to share some secret information. So the first step is Alice and Bob selects a random value. The second is do some calculation based on these selected random values, and then send to each other the result of the calculation. And the third step is Bob and Alice with their random number and with the received results, they can calculate the final number. Both parties will end up with the same number, but nobody will know this number. Only Bob and Alice will know. And the fourth very important algorithm in modern cryptography is the hash functions. Hashes are one-way mathematical functions, and they transform an arbitrary input into a fixed length, usually shorter code. Its purpose is to uniquely identify the input and guarantee its integrity. This means that if any change is made to the input, the output of the hash will be completely different, okay? So if you change the input, the output will be completely different. It's important to note that the input cannot be determined from the output. It's very important, okay? That's why it's only a one-way function. We call it one-way function. The most used algorithm is SHA-3 and Kazakh. These algorithms are all present in our everyday life. When we open a website, for example, or pay with your card, or make a phone call, or simply sit in our modern car, or just turn on the television and watch a movie on Netflix or other streaming, using other video streaming, then these algorithms are used to protect you and your data. Okay. What about quantum computing? What is computing and what is quantum resistance? It's very important. So quantum resistance, it means that it is not vulnerable to the algorithms used by quantum computers. Quantum computers are special computers that offer new parallel computational possibilities compared to the traditional computers, okay? So if we could say that the modern cryptography algorithms are resistance of quantum computing from quantum computers, that would be nice. But there are some bad news for you. Fast or slow? I usually get this question that quantum computers are really fast. We always say fast, but not. I would say they slowly fast. So it means that quantum computers can perform certain tasks very quickly, but they are not optimal for everything. For example, they are highly inefficient at adding two numbers, but they are incredibly fast at frequency analysis, for example. Frequency analysis means that a quantum computer can really find a periodic of a function if it has a periodicity or something like that. And I would like to talk about Shor's algorithm. It's very important because this is the algorithm where the bad news are coming. So, because there is an algorithm that are excellent at determining for a quantum computer can determining frequency and periodicity. So the existing cryptographic algorithm are breakable due to Shor's algorithm. The algorithm is based on the fact that if we know the number of elements in a modulo arithmetic finite field, prime factorization becomes easy, even with a regular PC for large prime numbers as well. So it's Shor's algorithms, it's very important, and it means that if we have a high efficient quantum computer, then the modern cryptography, even RSA and elliptic curve based algorithms are breakable. So this brings us perhaps the biggest problem we have to face. And as you can see, the store now, decrypt later. I think, and most of the cryptographers says that this is the biggest problem of nowadays. It's not so important that at this moment we don't have any quantum safe encryption. The problem is that because we don't have, and because we are using not quantum safe algorithms for encryption, and we send all the data on public networks, almost everybody could save the traffic, the internet traffic. And if they do, then they will be able to decode and read the entire data stream later with a computer, with a quantum computer. Even though sufficiently powerful quantum computers are still years away, they are already a threat because of the store now, decrypt later problem. So that's why it's very important now to talk about quantum computing and quantum threat. So probably they will not be interested in our Instagram photos or Facebook comments and something like that, but they are really unlikely to be interested in our average people like us. But how about government documents, financial documents, and other secrets documents? So that's why it's really important. I was told that no deep math today, but for whom may like to study this topic, this slide is for them. Daniel, no, I love math and everything behind it. So sorry, Daniel, I must, and I have to put this slide. Actually, the cryptographic solutions used today are based on mathematically called hard problems, including the new post-quantum algorithms. Here are the following 4 areas that I think we think, so the cryptographers think they are good to create a quantum resistance cryptography primitives. The first one is the lattice-based algorithms. They are based on a shortest vector problem. So probably I think I will show you the lattice-based more deeply a bit, but not so much. The second one, code-based solutions. They are algorithms that are used in error correcting, and error correcting codes are used widely, for example, by CD and DVDs and video streamings. The third one is isogeny-based, and it's really related to the elliptic curves. Because of the elliptic curves and the relationship with the elliptic curve, it's really nice, the isogeny-based algorithms, but probably I think the lattice-based will be the good one, but we will talk about later. So the first one, the fourth one is the multivariate quadratic cryptography based algorithms. It's like polynomials with multiple variables, so it's really complicated, math behind, and it's really hard. I think it's a hard one in topics in mathematically as well. NIST actually is an institute who is responsible for standardizing and I think provide a new quantum computer algorithms, as well as not just the modern cryptography, but the quantum safe algorithms. And I would like to tell you a story about, it was last year, NIST just has announced at the end of May in 2022, the round 3 finalists of the post-quantum algorithms. They proposed multiple algorithms, like as you see here in this slide, and only after 4 weeks, a mathematician and a cryptographer, one of them were broken with only a PC. And so it shows us that the research is far from over. It has just begun. So at the end of the year, NIST selected 2 algorithms, one for public key encryption and one for digital signature, and both algorithms based on lattices. So I would like to talk about lattice, because I think it's really simple one, and I won't go into deep mathematics, but I would like to share with everyone, and I would like everyone to get to know the basic theorem, because in my opinion, post-quantum algorithms of the future will be based on this field. I think it's not so complicated, so I would like to show you a short video about. It's about almost 3 minutes, not so long. Please.
There's no audio coming through.
Oh, really? You can't hear? Oh, how can we, Daniel?
When you shared this, did you share with audio on?
Okay.
because without that, YouTube will not play the sound.
Okay, just a moment, and sharing.
Just with your speaker.
It?
No.
No, share sound probably. Okay.
2. By adding together different integer
it's
combinations
okay.
of these vectors, say 3 times r1 and 1 times r2,
Okay.
you can get 2 different points. And all the points you can get to by combining these 2 vectors in different ways is what is called a lattice. Now, I will also give you the point C, and your task is to tell me which combination of r1 and r2 will bring me to the lattice point closest to C. It's pretty easy to see that we can get there by going in the direction of r2 twice, and in the negative direction of r1 twice. Simple enough. But those vectors r1 and r2 are not the only vectors that can give you this lattice. Take b1 and b2, for example. These vectors also build up the same lattice. And now, if I ask you the same question again, can you tell me the combination of b1 and b2 that gets you to the lattice point closest to C? This has become a lot harder. But why is that? Each time we're taking a step, we're trying to get closer in either the x or y direction. But with the b vectors, each time we take a step in the right direction with one vector, it puts us off in the other direction. And that's why these vectors are a lot harder to work with. In the end, it takes us a combination of 8 times b1 and -6 times b2 to get to the closest lattice point. That is a lot harder than before, but it's still a relatively easy problem to solve. But if we extend it to 3 dimensions, this already becomes a lot harder, especially because you're not given the collection of all lattice points. You're only given the vectors that make it up. So when you find a lattice point close to the target, you must still find all the other lattice points near it to make sure yours is indeed the closest. Let's take a circle of radius r in 2 dimensions. The number of lattice points inside the circle is proportional to r squared. Add a 3rd dimension, and the number of points in the sphere is proportional to r cubed. So just watch how the number of lattice points grows as we increase the number of dimensions. Solving the closest vector problem is a piece of cake for your computer in 3 dimensions. Even 100 dimensions should be manageable. But in proposed future encryption schemes, we'll use around 1,000 dimensions. Take one step in the right direction on one of those dimensions, and you could potentially be taking a wrong step in the other 999 dimensions. You win some, you lose everything else. With that many dimensions, it becomes extremely hard to find the closest point, even for the most powerful computers. That is, unless you know a good set of vectors.
Okay, thank you. That was the video. I hope that you understand the lattices and you have a imagination about how does it works. So what is the future and how this is look like? From software perspective, the most important thing that we must modify HTTPS to a quantum resistance solution as soon as possible. Because if you just collect all the information over the internet, even it's using now with the TLS3 at 1.3, it's not protected, and this is not protect us. So the most important thing that we must modify to a quantum resistance solution. As you earlier saw earlier, there are a lot of research, but mathematicians, cryptographers, and programmers have already proposed an implementation of the current TLS protocol with crystal key exchange mechanism. So actually, I think there is hope, and we are not safe yet, but we are not hopeless. So I think it's a good one from a software perspective, and from from hardware perspective, it's and highly efficient quantum computers are still in years, and the biggest problem with the quantum computers is the soundness or the very noisy qubits. So what does it mean it's noisy? It means that there are a lot of error. So if you think, for example, for a 300 qubits quantum computer would be enough in an ideal way, but because they are very noisy, for an RSA, it takes 1 hour to break with 20 million qubits. So as you see, the current situation at this moment, we have almost 53 and 127 qubits and something like that. So we are much more to do and develop quantum computing before we could break RSA or elliptic curve based solutions. But they are here, and probably I think hardware will developing more rapidly than the software solutions. So we have to be prepared. And what's the conclusion? The conclusion is that in a security analysis, we must pay close attention to how the cryptographic algorithms are used and how are replaceable with a post-quantum cryptography algorithm. And we have to monitor the development of the post-quantum cryptography area because it changes really quickly and every day changes, I think. And keep in mind that the current encryption are no longer solve the problem of keeping the data truly secure or encrypted if it's transmitted over a public network. So thank you very much, and I will give the stage to Daniel.
Awesome. So thank you very much for this presentation. So my proposition would be that I would just give the second speech, if I manage it, yeah. And then basically, so we would plan basically at the end of the meetup, like a brief like questions and answers and discussions. So I would propose let me just have the second speech. Because that way you're gonna have probably a better overview on the whole idea of what we want to present here. And then again, so at the end of the meetup or at the end of this session, we can likely have like discussion. We can likely answer questions. I mean, as far as we know, answer all of these questions. But that would be my proposition. So let me basically start with the second presentation, and then so this is like more like blockchain and not just quantum. I usually get the question, yeah, okay, so we got a blockchain system. So how secure is that against like a quantum computer, or how secure is that like against quantum threat? And I would say that's kind of an easy question. It's very difficult to answer. So I mean, answering that question requires like really, pretty wide analysis. It's practically an analysis that I can't just do it alone. It would require like a couple of highly professional experts to answer. But what we're gonna do, or what I just try to propose here, is kind of a step-by-step analysis method on a high level. With that, you can start something. With that, you can just consider which should be the steps that should be analyzed practically if you consider like a blockchain and quantum threat of a distributed ledger system. So that's gonna be the agenda or the content of my presentation. First, I just have one slide on like mission critical distributed ledger use cases. Then I got one slide on a high level blockchain quantum threat analysis. Then we just go a little bit more deep inside into the analysis steps. And then I will have just some organizational aspects. And again, so at the end, we can likely have like questions and answers, even like community discussion as well, basically as you wish. So why do we need such analysis? I mean, why do we care about like blockchain and quantum threats? So you might as well say, hey, I mean, it's gonna take like, I don't know, perhaps 8 years before the first algorithm can be cracked by quantum computers, or perhaps it's gonna be like 15 years. So why do we care? I mean, if that happens and it's gonna be like, you know, well known that we got like real strong quantum computers that can practically crack RSA or elliptic curve cryptography, then we do something. But it's enough to start with that, like in, I don't know, 5 years. So why do we consider, despite such a use case, such a thing? It's because I mean, most of the blockchain and distributed ledger system has, I would say, mission critical use cases. And mission critical, not just in a sense of high availability, but in a sense that it shouldn't be cracked, it shouldn't be hacked in any way. These use cases are, I mean, one of course is payment, but even with classical cryptocurrency, one very strong use case is like having something with store of value. You know, I mean, even if we just cover Bitcoin, I shouldn't mention Bitcoin because this is a Hyperledger call, but I will just have some more enterprise use cases just in a second. But even if you just consider Bitcoin, that should work actually as a store of value, or that acts at the moment as a store of value. So if you say store of value, it's not something which is considered for 2 years or for 5 years. Store of value is something that you consider for 10 years, 20 years, or for a lifetime. So in a sense, if we consider like such a use case, which is for 20 years or for a lifetime, well, I mean, quantum computing and quantum threat will be real. So this is like the more classical crypto, so like cryptocurrency stablecoins suffer with the same problem. But if you just stay with the enterprise and highly regulated use cases, what's usually considered for distributed ledger and for Hyperledger technologies as well, it's like CBDC, that's central bank digital currency. So practically, you don't design a CBDC system for 3 years. You don't have the consideration, hey, let me just do something and we just consider something in 3 years if it can be cracked by quantum computers or not. If you design a CBDC system, you design it for 20, 30 years. That's for sure. Similar use cases like deposit tokens. It's less well known, but it's a kind of a tokenized commercial bank deposit, which actually goes to blockchain usually. I mean, with CBDC, it's not 100% sure if you want to realize it with blockchain. If it's like a retail CBDC, blockchain might not be the best technology to deal with. But usually, like deposits tokens or tokenized commercial bank money deposits go to blockchain. So the idea is to use them in blockchain, and that's pretty much just similar. So I mean, if you just tokenize deposit accounts of a big bank, you don't want to plan that system in a way that, hey, we just consider something in 3 years if there's quantum threat. You want to start designing that system with the idea that it might work like 20 years, for instance. And other use cases of, it's not just blockchain, but actually it's pretty much connected with the Hyperledger technology, and that's identity. We got a lot of like blockchain and identity system. Actually, we got identity without blockchain as well. It's like in the EU, that's like the whole ADAS 2.0 regulation. But I mean, even if you like consider like the Hyperledger technologies, you get many identity solutions there. So what's the problem with that? Well, again, I mean, if you consider identity use cases are like identity cards, passports, driving license, and stuff like that. And these are, again, pretty much mission critical use cases. So you don't want to design an identity card in a way that, hey, I mean, let me just take a look what's happening in like 3 years in terms of quantum computing. You probably want to design such a system with with the idea, or at least with the thoughts that, hey, that's gonna run like 20, 30 years. So that's a problem with like distributed ledger use cases, that some of them is really mission critical, and then having a mission critical DLT use case, I mean, it's a good idea to at least start brainstorming on, hey, what's gonna happening with quantum computing. So for this, we're just not gonna go very much deep into the details because it would be way too technical and would take like way much time. But what we propose is basically a very high level, so-called high level distributed ledger quantum threat analysis. And it has like 5 steps. Again, we just covered them in a high level. But I would say, so if you just want to consider the threat of a quantum computing for a blockchain systems, so these are the considerations that you should do, or that is practical to be done. So these are like the steps. First step is like having a threat model. It's not always easy with blockchain because some blockchain systems do not really have threat model, but we can have some workarounds as well. The second one is an impact analysis. So what's gonna happen if there's a quantum attack for a certain part of a blockchain? Again, so blockchain is a complex system. It has many parts, many moving parts as well, many stuffs inside. So basically, it's not just, I mean, not the whole blockchain system will be cracked, but practically you should imagine that part of your system will be cracked. So it's very important question. What happens if a certain part of your system gets cracked? Then the third question is, of course, quantum readiness. It's kind of a question how likely that this attack will happen. Will happen in like 10 years, in 20 years, or in 30 years. The fourth one is the prevention possibilities. So considering that we got something in the blockchain, is there a way to improve it, or will there be a way to improve it? Can we use it like post-quantum crypto? Is the post-quantum crypto already available? Is it under research? Can we at all upgrade our system to like post-quantum cryptography and stuff like that? And then at the end, we got something which is an overall risk evaluation, which is, I mean, practically like high risk, medium risk, or low risk. And we got just one other organizational aspect. It describes in a way that hey, like what do we do? How such an evaluation can be carried out in a practical way. So let me just go a little bit more deeper inside into these topics. And I have just one slide on each and every topic, basically. So I think I'm going to cover like in the next 15 minutes, or perhaps even 10. So let me start by a threat model. So, I mean, most blockchain systems are pretty complex. And then, so my experience that usually we don't have something as a threat model, but it's usually a good idea. So basically, it's kind of a practical consideration how our system can be hacked, basically, how our system can be attacked, and what's gonna happen if that system will be attacked. There are many results if you consider the consensus mechanism, of course. So like threat model for the consensus mechanism, or attack possibilities against your consensus mechanism. That's like the 51% attack. It's like different if it's proof of work, if it's proof of stake. It's again different if it's like kind of a consortium consensus algorithm. It's very, very much understood. But apart from the consensus mechanism, sometimes it's just difficult to find a threat model, or let me put it that way, you find elements of your threat model, but like finding a fully described threat model for a full blockchain system is sometimes difficult to find. So one way of having such a threat model is like using, that's the slide model. It's basically not just for blockchain, but for any complex systems. It basically classifies different kind of attacks, different kind of threats, and it classifies if that's a threat against authenticity, if it's a threat against integrity or consistency, if it's just kind of an attack against like non-repudiation, if it's kind of an attack against confidentiality and privacy, if it's like an availability attack, or if it's a threat against authorization. And again, so this is like an important classification, I would say. The different threats and different attacks are not the same, so they can be categorized differently, and they have different impact as well. So like, for instance, what we last saw like 3 weeks ago, there was like, I don't know, it's like the mempool was full in Bitcoin. It wasn't an attack theoretically, but some kind of a scaling problem. But something similar is a denial of attack service, for instance. But it's totally different if you have like, you know, I mean, I don't know, an attack against your privacy. So you have like pseudonymization, like in a cryptocurrency systems, and these generated pseudonyms are somehow connected with each other. That's like basically a threat against privacy. It's again totally different if you have kind of an attack or threat against integrity. So if somebody steals your key, for instance, that's like, I would say, a kind of an integrity a threat, integrity attack. And unfortunately, there's not much 100% fully described threat model. But I mean, if you coincidentally have one, it's just better to start from here. Start with such a threat model. So, depending if you have threat model or if you don't have, what you can do, even if you don't have like explicit threat model, is just considering the cryptographic primitives in your blockchain systems. Because the point is that most quantum attack will target practically your cryptographic primitives. So what we can do, we just list the cryptographic primitives and we list the applications of these cryptographic primitives. So it's like kind of a reverse thinking. It doesn't start from the threat model, but, you know, I mean, let we just work with that what we have, so practically. So here there are some examples. It's not a complete list of examples. In real life, you would need like pages for that at least. But let me just give you some examples. So for instance, we got one cryptographic primitive, and surprisingly, this is one of the most important in blockchain, although it's usually not considered as one of the most important, but that's random generation. More specifically, it's like a cryptographically secure pseudo-random generation, like the Yarrow algorithm, for instance, and it used in many times basically. So for instance, it is used as in a key generation for blockchain identities. Practically your identity is your key, is your private key, and your public key, which is derived from private key. And if you have like kind of a consortium network, then from your private public key, you might as well have something which is an X509 certificate. But anyway, so key generation is very important practically in your blockchain identity. Key generation is very important with TLS. If it's a consortium network, or an enterprise application, you usually have TLS. TLS uses these keys as well. So the next category is like hash function. It's like SHG 256, for instance, or Ketchuk, I usually say, but I probably pronounce in a too much, innovative way. But anyway, so like hash function gives like or applies in several parts or plays in several parts in your system. So for instance, it is the basis for your ledger consistency, for instance. It is, of course, how much is that critical? I mean, for instance, I would say in a public blockchain, ledger consistency is very, very important. If that's a consortium network or an enterprise application, perhaps you can assume, it's like a system between 5 banks. You might as well assume that, hey, none of the banks gonna actually hack our system, or probably not gonna hack. So perhaps ledger consistency is not so important. Then we got like mining. That's the classical Bitcoin mining, and it is used very strongly on hash function and pre-image resistance of the hash function. So if it gets hacked, then it's a very big problem with systems that has mining. Otherwise, systems without mining, perhaps it's not so important. Then we got like, for instance, hash functions with like key derivations. For instance, a pseudonymization, that's kind of a confidentiality, so privacy characteristics. And again, it is used in some blockchains and it is not used in some other blockchains. So the next category is like digital signature. It's like the RSA or elliptic curve digital signature algorithm. It is usually for signing, authenticity, and integrity, for instance. Just one more example. It's like, pretty new, I would say. If you use like fancy things, like you got rollups, you want to use zero knowledge proofs, and you use like layer 2 solutions, then things are getting even more complicated. But this is just one example for zero knowledge proof. It's like the Gross 16 zero knowledge proof system. As far as I know, that's actually not quantum secure. And then, for instance, you can use it in rollups for authenticity or confidentiality. So this is one way where you can start, and then let's see some of the evaluation steps. Again, I don't have like matrices, but I have some, red lights, yellow lights, and green lights. So the first question is, considering your blockchain system, so what's going to happen if one part's going to be hacked? What's the impact of it? Is it something which is very critical? It's end of the world if we have that hack. Is it which is so it's not good, it's not nice, but perhaps we find a workaround. We can live with that for a short time. So it's like medium impact, or is it something which is not so important? So with this very simple categorization, I just categorize to like 3 categories. It's a high impact hack, it's a medium impact hack, or it's a low impact hack. Or more precisely, if we just take a look on the certain part where our cryptographic primitive is used, what's gonna result if that will be hacked? Is it something which is high? Is it medium? Or is it low? And of course, the question is, what's gonna cause? Is it like will it cause like problems with availability, with integrity, with authenticity, with privacy, and so on and so on and so on. So that's something which I call as impact analysis. And I just made some, colors here with the previous list. So for instance, if the key generation gonna be hacked, that's your identity, that's an authenticity, and that's an integrity feature, I would say, and that's surely a very high impact. So if somebody can generate your key, then somebody can generate your identity. That's all. That's very problematic. If you get like TLS generation, that's probably very bad for authenticity. It's pretty bad for confidentiality, but we might as well say that for confidentiality, that's not such a huge problem if it happens for a short run as well, only for a short run. Again, for the other stuffs as well, so ledger consistency is usually a big problem if it's broken, but it depends on your blockchains. You might as well argue that, hey, that's a private or a consortium ledger, then we don't really expect much, ledger consistency hacking. It's a closed system anyway, so nobody gonna break in. So perhaps integrity or ledger consistency hacking will not such a high impact. Again, mining, it depends. We might as well say this is actually green. So if you get like a non-mining, non-proof of work system, then basically hacking mining is basically a low impact hack because we don't use mining. It's very simple. It's again key derivation. That's kind of a privacy problem. So what happens if our privacy goes down? Of course, it's not very good, but there are some systems that don't use like key derivation, don't use much pseudonymization. So in that system, basically, that's a low impact or rather a no impact hack. And it's again, so like digital signature, forging a digital signature is usually a high impact hack because, you know, that's your identity. It doesn't matter if you forge the key or forge a false signature. That's practically an identity theft, and it has very, very strong consequences in all of your blockchain systems. And honestly, I've no idea about zero. I mean, I've ideas on zero knowledge proofs, but I don't know how like Rose 16 can be hacked by quantum computers, and I'm not quite sure what it exactly causes. So it's like I would leave this as an open question, or perhaps an analysis for our next meetup. So that's impact analysis. The second question is quantum readiness. So the question is here, are the quantum computers ready to hack our system, basically? Or will it be ready in like a couple of years? And that's what like quantum readiness. And again, I got like 3 categories. It's like, I mean, the question itself is not so simple to answer. There are like a couple of things that we can consider. And I will not answer all of these things here. That might be raising as question. So first question is, how many quantum bits do I have? There are like different calculations here, like more stable and less stable qubits. For instance, then we should consider basically that the public information on how many qubits do we have might be not 100% correct. So might, even if Google says they have like, I don't know, 120 qubits, if I'm not mistaken, perhaps somebody having a very big quantum computer hidden somewhere without publishing actually data on that and having more than 120 qubits. So what's important is the number of qubits, but again, that would require like a pretty deep analysis. The second question is, what can we do if you have like quantum computers with many qubits? And there are like 2 algorithms here that should be mentioned. One is the Shor's algorithm that solves like factorization problem in logarithmic time. So that's pretty bad. I mean, that's pretty fast. So you can break, for instance, RSE, elliptic curve signatures, and then, for instance, Diffie-Hellman key exchange independently if that's with RSE or elliptic curve realized. And we got something which is the Groover's algorithm. That's a kind of a quantum search algorithm. It's in square time, so it's not so fast, not as critical as a Shor's algorithm. But despite, if you have strong enough quantum computers, you might as well able to break like symmetric ciphers or cryptographic hash functions. And I would say, so I'm not an expert necessarily in post-quantum cryptography or quantum computing. There might be other algorithms as well, or there might be the case that, you know, I mean, future further algorithms might be invented. So perhaps in just, in 3 years, we just find a new algorithm that's gonna crack, I don't know, everything, which is not so to be possible today. So as a very simple technology management evaluation, I just ordered basically 3 categories here. The red one is, it's something which is expected to be cracked in like 10 years. So we can say like for RSA or perhaps even for elliptic curve digital signatures, well, it can be read. So we might as well say in 10 years, there's a realistic chance that it will be cracked. The yellow one is something which is in 10 to 20 years. And the green one is like more than 20 years. And again, so you need here like quantum computing experts and post-quantum crypto expert to go very deep into these topics and to answer these points very well established. But on a high level, we just have these 3 categories. And our last but one evaluation step is the prevention possibilities. So the question is, okay, let me see. We got something which is critical. That's like the cryptography primitive. We got the usage. So and then we might as well expect that it will be cracked, perhaps in 10 years, perhaps in 20 years. So the question is, with prevention, do we have a plan to prevent it, or do we know what we do if that quantum risk will be expected to manifest like in Mons? So let me just assume, okay, we have like I don't know, 10 more years until like the elliptic curve digital signature will be cracked. But do we have an idea what we do if that comes, if that comes in near, if that comes, hey, then perhaps in 2 years that's gonna be cracked. And we got a system running CBDC. So what do we do? And there are several things that can be done. First, you can increase the key size. If that's a symmetric cipher, for instance, it can help because it can be cracked by the Groover's algorithm, and that is fast, but only on a square time. So basically, like with symmetric ciphers, increasing the key size might help. We can have like post-quantum cryptography as well. The only problem is that post-quantum crypto is pretty much in research. And then I would say research and development, and partly standardization. So I would say you can have like post-quantum crypto primitives that you can try out. But I mean, using really a standardized way in your system, I don't think you get a choice at the moment. You just wait to need like a couple of years for that. Anyway, post-quantum crypto is practically a cryptography that runs on normal computers, but despite its resistance to quantum attacks. We can consider quantum cryptography as well. So quantum cryptography is a cryptography with quantum computers, and there are already examples for that. One is like random number generation, which is generated by a special hardware. And it exists and it is used as well. As far as I know, it costs like a couple of $10,000s of dollars, but it's a possibility to generate real random numbers with quantum computers, and it's on the market. One other example is like key exchange. You can realize key exchange with like a laser, and that's based on quantum computing, and that's practically kind of quantum cryptography. So as far as I know, for instance, part of the network is China. The TLS and basically the network security is set up in a way that basically they realize the key exchange with lasers, and then practically that's done by quantum computing. I mean, that's done by with the same physical stuff as quantum computing. And one other important question is, besides these theoretical stuff, it's something which is more practical. Can we do this upgrade at all? I mean, one difficult thing with your blockchain system is that that's immutable. So you write something in, it remains there practically. So for instance, is it something which is a ledger independent upgrade? So if it's a ledger independent upgrade, for instance, it's usually probably not a problem. We just exchange the cryptographic primitive with something, I mean, supposing that already exists, and then we can do it. So for instance, usually like post-quantum TLS shouldn't be a problem. Perhaps one exception is Hyperledger Fabric, because some of your X509 certificates of your TLS certificates is written into the ledger as well. So that might be a problem. But which is again more critical if you get something which is a ledger dependent upgrade. So if you have immutable data, and basically, I mean, you get practically all your signatures in the blockchain that might be hacked. It's just, you can say, hey, we got like a new signature scheme from the future, but certainly your old signatures probably remain in the ledger. So it's a question if that causes problems or not. So anyway, without going deep inside, it's just again 3 categories, just the 3, colors. The red one, we know how to prevent if that text comes. The yellow one, we have an idea what we will do. So for instance, with like digital signatures, we have an idea that post-quantum cryptography gonna come. Perhaps it comes like in 5 years, but if that comes, we know what to do. And the red one, we don't know what to do. So if the attacks come, we have absolutely no idea. So that was the third step. And then basically based on these 3 steps, I got something which is an overall risk evaluation. And it's almost a matrix, I would say. So first we got the threats. We got like threat 1, threat 2, and threat n. And we got these impacts as well. It's again just, impact readiness and prevention categories. So what's most critical is if we get if that's a high impact hack, that's an identity theft, that's a high impact hack overall. If the quantum computing is ready or will be ready in 10 years to do it, and we have no clue what to do if that comes. That's the most critical. That's like the overall risk is high. We might as well argue very high. The next categories are somehow mixed. So like if we have like high impact, so like we say that, hey, cracking elliptic curve comes. It is expected in 10 years, or it might be expected in 10 years, but we know what to do. We have probably some kind of workaround prevention process. If that comes, we know what to do. That's kind of a medium risk, I would say. Similarly, if you get like a medium impact, like, I don't know, if you get like a declining privacy, it's not just, that your privacy goes away fully, but due to the attack, your privacy will be declined with a certain level. That's like a medium impact. If we say that, hey, that comes probably in 10 or 20 years, and we still don't know what to do, well, again, it's like 10, 20 years, we might as well say that's kind of a medium risk. And of course, we have something which is a low risk. So if you have like medium impact expected in like 20 plus years, and we know practically a good prevention process, so we exactly know what to do if that comes, that's kind of a low risk. Certainly, this is not all of the combinations, but that's the main idea behind this overall risk evaluation. So let me have one such one last slide, and that's gonna be the organizational aspect of doing such an assessment, such an evaluation. So the idea is something that so first to work out such an evaluation for an upcoming or an existing system, that's like a lot of work for the first round. So it's probably a workshop or several workshops and intensive collaboration between several experts. So again, I mean, this process was high level, but to work out in details, you need like computer and system security experts. You need like a threat analysis or probably vulnerability analysis of your blockchain systems. You need expertise in cryptography, expertise probably in post-quantum cryptography and quantum computing as well. Not necessarily quantum physics, but at least quantum computing. So usually it's like 3 different experts. Usually you don't find this competence in a one-man show. And if you do it first, you got like practically a full analysis on your quantum threats for your blockchains. That should be practically reevaluated periodically, like every year or every 2 years. And then, because it's not final. So, I mean, the world is changing. We can't expect how many qubits we're going to have like in 2 years or 3 years. We don't know if there's new, algorithm coming up. Basically, we don't know how fast this NIST standardization for post-quantum cryptography are gonna be finished. So what's proposed is reevaluating this assessment periodically and considering stuffs like what are the newest advancements in quantum computers, like the amount of qubits, what are the new quantum algorithms, especially if they are capable of breaking like existing cryptographic primitives. What are new results in attacking classical cryptographic primitives with quantum computers? What are the advancements in like post-quantum cryptography, like the NIST standardization? And last but not least, so like if there's like new quantum cryptography results, theoretical results, research results, and so on and so on. So that was my last slide. As a conclusion, I would say hey, I mean, asking the question, how far is your blockchain system protected against quantum computers? That's a very, very easy. I mean, that seems to be a very easy question, but answering this question is very complex. It requires really, I would say, like 3-4 highly professional experts, and then like a couple of days of very deep analysis. So that was my presentation. Thank you very much for the participation. And then I would say, and of course, thank you very much for your patience as well. It is just taking a little bit more time than I expected. But I would say, let me just change to discussion or questions and answers. And then we're just gonna try to answer, I mean, as many questions as possible. It's of course a complex field. So we are other blockchain experts and not like, you know, post-quantum cryptographers or quantum computer experts. So I would say, if you, yeah, sure. If you have questions, just unmute yourself, go ahead, or you can just put it into chat as well.
Sure. So the question I had is, as far as something like fully homomorphic encryption, you know, and tying that in, I guess it may be a type of lattice-based cryptography, but the main question is fully homomorphic encryption, fully homomorphic encryption compiler. Let's say someone's sending data onto the blockchain and they pass it through a FHE compiler, or developing some sort of fully homomorphic computational network. Would you say that's something feasible now, or would you say we don't fully have the mathematics, the academic research, as it were, is not fully developed to start working on those problems now? Where do you think that stands, like that approach to post-quantum, let's say using ring learning with errors, you know, that type of thing as far as approach to post-quantum cryptography?
Okay, Daniel showed that probably I should answer this question. For a homomorphic encryption, it depends, because if the protocol or the algorithm is using any kind of prime factorization or any elliptic curve based primitives, then probably all the algorithms is not quantum safe at all. But there are some exceptions. For example, if you just, for example, in Bitcoin, the network, if you the public addresses are hashed, and so from the hash code you can't get the public key, and so from the public key you can't get the private key. So it's almost the Bitcoin itself is almost quantum safe. But if you create a signature with your private key, then it's from the signature with the quantum computer you can get the public key and the private key as well. So it's actually not quantum safe. So that's why I say it depends, and a really deep mathematical analysis must be, or you have to do really deep investigation about the algorithm and how is it using elliptic curve based primitives. So I hope that I understood your question and I answered it.
Of course. So I guess like as a bit of a follow-on per what Daniel was saying in his later slide, would you say as far as taking quantum computers into account, as far as security is concerned, would you say the approach going forward will be whatever's getting built? You just have to keep in mind, and whatever networks will be out there, it'll be a constant evaluation as quantum computing keeps getting more and more advanced, and it keeps getting better at various tasks, meaning we master it more. As it keeps getting better, we're just going to have to find ways, to reevaluate and update our networks, kind of. So that do you see that as what's going to be happening over the next 15 years, sort of, as the best approach?
Yeah, perhaps let me just try to answer this question from a little bit like more from a technology management perspective. Yeah. So with homomorphic encryption, the problem is you get like encrypted data on your ledger practically, and everything which is on your ledger stays there because it's usually, at the moment most systems are immutable. So it's the question first, which is the homomorphic algorithm that you use. If I'm not so much deep in this topic, but yeah. So there are certainly some algorithms that are based on like I don't know, prime factorization or elliptic curves, and that will be cracked practically by quantum computers. So the question is, let me just assume you use like a homomorphic encryption scheme on your ledger. Your data is on the ledger. Use like kind of an elliptic curve based scheme, and then that's gonna be cracked in 50 years. So the question is, how big is the impact? Is it a problem? So it means in 15 years your ledger data can be read practically. Is it a problem? Perhaps you get like, it's kind of a privacy leak. But I can imagine that you say, hey, that's not a problem at all. We get like enterprise ledgers. This data won't have any business value in like 15 years. So who cares? It might happen from a technological perspective. So that's one answer. Of course, the more cryptographic answer is that, yeah, if you have like ledger encryption, it might be better to take a look like homomorphic encryption. If you store that data in the ledger, it might be a better idea to take a look on a homomorphic encryption scheme that is actually quantum post-quantum or quantum resistant. And yeah, I'm not quite sure if that exists or doesn't exist, or if it's something easy or not easy. It's for that we would need like a real cryptographer, not like a blockchain engineers or researchers.
Right. All right. Yeah, I guess that's it. But I guess per blockchain, just what you were saying, it would be wise to, I guess, keep reevaluating whatever you do have implemented. To keep,
so let me do it that way. I'm just reading a questions in the chat, and we just try to answer them. In the meantime, okay, if you have like any questions, just feel free to unmute yourself and ask the question. It's like open community anyway. So there's no wrong question. I would say. So the first question, is there any academic research regarding quantum malware or viruses? Not that I know. There's a lot of research how you can crack like certain cryptographic elements, but like for malware or viruses, it's it's an interesting question. What we did not really cover, because most of the research in terms of quantum threats focus on how you can crack the cryptographic primitives. But basically, you might as well have like elements in your system that is not fully based on cryptography, despite it can be very easily cracked by quantum computers. It's a good question, but I don't know if there's like active research on malware or viruses. But again, so we are blockchain practitioners, so we are not academicians and not really like quantum computer, professionals. So the next question is, does the public and open nature of blockchain make it more vulnerable to the threat posed by quantum computers, which have the potential to break current cryptographic algorithms? Yeah, so I would say, so public blockchain is in a sense more problematic. It has more threat against quantum computers or anything. It's because, you know, classical consortium ledger is inside the companies. So basically, if you want to break practically a classical consortium blockchain, then you need to break into the system for first of the enterprising running this system, and after you need to crack the blockchain. But it's a little bit more like with public blockchains. So on the one hand, yeah, I would say public blockchains are certainly more vulnerable for quantum threats. On the other hand, it's like, you know, it's difficult because public blockchain looks that way that most of the hacks are manifested as fast as possible. So if there's a possible hack, you will see actually on like the Bitcoin network, it can have disaster for sure, but I mean, the developer is gonna react very fast. So, I mean, on long term, just getting more attack makes the system on a long term more secure. But certainly, it doesn't prevent quantum algorithms hacking like the Bitcoin network on a short run for sure. I don't know, is there anything that you want to? So the next question is the first 1 million Bitcoins of Satoshi used public key as an address. I worry what happens if these coins move by quantum computers. What can Bitcoin network? So I can answer, I can give information what I know basically exactly. So the problem is that basically so Bitcoin uses like elliptic curve digital signature and for the key derivation elliptic curve as well. I mean, deriving from the public key, the private one. So practically that means that with like quantum computation, you can do it in a reverse direction. So from your public key, you can just calculate the private key itself. And then for this reason, actually, there's basically something which might protect more basically the Bitcoin network. In later versions, you don't use as an address your public key, but you use basically a double hashed version extended with some parameters as an address in the Bitcoin network. So it's in a sense like more quantum resistance because we can't calculate back basically the public key, the private. I mean, you don't directly see the public key, so it's just more difficult to calculate back the private key, and from the hash value, the hash value is not so problematic in terms of quantum computing because it might be broken just by the Groover algorithm that has like square time. What happens with the Bitcoin? It's not something that I know at the moment. It's because, I mean, as far as I know, practically, but again, it's just what I'm just brainstorming at the moment. So even if you use like later addresses and the hash value, you use a hash value as an address, your public key will be reversed as you make the signature. So practically your public key will be visible. But as far as I know, basically it looks that way in Bitcoin, that each and every coin is usually kind of should be a new address, or if that's a good practice to have a new address. So if you have like a private public key and then a derived hash, and your public key is revealed, and then you can calculate back the private key, well, then in a fortunate case, that coin already spent, so there's no coin. But it might be, it might be still like coins, I don't know, in the first megabyte Bitcoins, where the public key is visible and there's coin behind, then the private key can be calculated back. I would say that these coins can be stolen. But again, it's just very fast brainstorming from me. So the next question is the research somewhere into use of layers of cryptography using RSA elliptic curve, then Caesar cipher, and so on. So I'm not quite sure if there are layers, but I mean, certainly, I mean, you don't usually use like Caesar cipher, but there are like more advanced block ciphers or stream ciphers for encryption. So my experience that cryptographic primitives aren't used necessarily in layers. They are just used as building blocks of your system, which is like, I would say, seems like a little bit ad hoc or rather by motivated by the system design itself. So it's not really layers. That's my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
So the next question is there an easy practical test we can do our project to know the degree of protection? Not that I know. It again, so this whole meetup and you know, I mean, part of the presentation is the result that basically, I mean, in some of our project was asked, hey, then how secure is your blockchain against quantum threat? And then we didn't find easy answer. So for this reason, we just started to, you know, I mean, collect actually the parts that should be considered at all. And then I'm not quite sure if there's like easy tests at the moment. Perhaps, I mean, the ecosystem gonna develop further, and perhaps in a couple of years we got like, you know, a simple tool to run on your software, and then it gives like a result how quantum secure is that. But I don't know if there's existed at this moment. So there's some Lamport signatures, EVM blockchain. Then the next question is, so the next question is, can quantum mechanism or quantum computing solve the problem of consensus and reach final decision by separating photons, where all photons will take the same state, so that when the state is changed, they all change synchronously? It's not something that I can answer. For that, we need the quantum physicist, the nuclear physicist, or the quantum computer expert in our call, which we don't have at the moment. Sure, we're gonna share all of the presentations for sure. It's gonna be on a subsequent email from Linux Foundation. Everything is with like Apache 2.0 license, so you can freely use. It's just, you know, I mean, if you use it, just refer to us a little bit. We always welcome some marketing, basically.
Yes, thanks. Yes.
Yeah, Caesar cipher. Yeah, it's a little bit old-fashioned, I would say, but it worked pretty well in like 2000 years ago. But yeah, I would say. So the next question is, what is the best way to use GPT in creating a cipher?
Wow. I tried, and the outcome was totally disaster, because ChatGPT is really good with writing speakings and writing, for example, codes. If you really know what would you like to see, and really know the software architecture, then ChatGPT is really good one and can do a really good work. But creating the cipher, it was really a disaster, because it's actually ChatGPT wasn't able to calculate even the most simplest discrete algorithm mathematical equations. Even I showed and tried to teach ChatGPT how to calculate the primitive values, but I wasn't succeed. So I think that AI at this moment with the ChatGPT, you can't create a good cipher or something like that.
So we have like 2 more minutes actually from our planned session, and I'm not quite sure, perhaps there's going to be some subsequent session. So I would say we got like time for one more question. So if anybody has like one more question, we can likely try to answer. I mean, otherwise, you can reach us via LinkedIn, for instance. So we are happy to answer any questions later as well. Yes, so there's one last question. It's like AI, machine learning, and quantum plus AI. Yeah, again, so quantum and AI is probably a big topic as well. I just set some algorithms basically. Probably there's something which is like quantum machine learning, as far as I know, that could possibly accelerate very fast, basically, or very much anything which is AI and machine learning at the moment. And it's a good question if, like, you know, if AI can crack ciphers better than anybody else. I mean, probably not, because I mean ciphers should have like the characteristic of, you know, like having such probabilistic attributes that should be indistinguishable from like white noise. Very simple. So AI or quantum AI shouldn't crack better, but again, it's a big topic, and I'm not necessarily an expert. So one last question. It's like zero knowledge proof. So there's actually post quantum zero knowledge proofs as well. They not necessarily used. It's because I think it's too slow and the signature size is too big. So like what's usually used, that's the gross 16 zero knowledge proof is not quantum secure, but you find quantum secure zero knowledge proofs as well. Basically, it's possible. It's already available. Again, I mean, constructors or developers don't like it because slow and big, very simple. But it can be considered practically in a blockchain design as well. So I would say we are running slowly out of time. So that is basically the end of this meetup. We would like to thank you very much for your contribution, and thank you very much for this super questions and very good discussion, I would say. So again, we can be available, like you can ping us very likely on LinkedIn if you have like further questions. And then basically again, so thank you very much for the participation again, and then yeah, see you somehow somewhere next time in the next Hyperledger meetup.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye, everybody.